Hey, y'all. So you've probably heard me touch on today's chat briefly in a lot of different areas, but I want to dive in and give it like dedicated time because it's something I'm asked about a lot. And I've had this conversation before when Alex was around, but I kind of want to just have a girlfriend chat if you're down, where I just talk to you about how it is, how it's evolved, all that. So enough beating around the bush. I want to talk about money. I want to talk about what it's like being the breadwinner, and I want to talk about lazy men. Now, I know that this for some of you, you're just like, "Ooh, girl, let's do it," because you relate and, or you've experienced or you've been trying to dodge them like a bullet. But I personally feel like as much as we are hearing these clips, you've seen them around social media, they go viral about guys talking about high value women. Have you heard of it? It's like super when I tell you, it cracks me up because you'll hear these guys who are saying that there is an epidemic right now. It's so hard to find a woman who is high value. And high value means, she's both ridiculously hot. She believes in traditional values and just wants to stay home. She has no expectations of that man. She just wants to like basically breed babies and like do all the things he doesn't want to do, like fetch his laundry and cook meals, and that is the definition of a high value. Oh, and also like support his business and cheer him on and basically do all these things and ask for nothing but to have her bills paid, right? And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a prostitute, not a high value woman, but I hear you on that. And I'm not, just so that you guys can stay out my DMs, I'm not knocking the women who like traditional lifestyles. You guys have heard me say this 1,000 times over. I definitely have a more old school perspective around partnership in a lot of ways. But make no mistake, a lot of the definitions of high value women that you hear around the internet are really oppressive. And they're just guys who are saying, I want to own and possess a woman. And we're not checking for that. But I want to talk about the other side of it, which is why do we have these guys out here who are claiming day in and day out that there aren't enough women that are quality, but then what are they bringing to the table? So, first things first, as you know, or if you're new to this, I have older daughters. Because I adopted my first three girls, I've got a 26-year-old, a 23-year-old, and a 13-year-old. And each of them is in a prime season of their life where we are having a lot of conversation about relationships, like whether it is being in one and transitioning out of one, whether it is who to date and how to date, or, with my 13-year-old, why are boys gross, like, which God, Lord, please let that stay that way for as long as possible. Right. But, we're having a lot of these conversations and I'm going to say it. And I think that, a lot of you, especially if your mom is out there, if you're dating yourself, you're probably going to nod your head. It ain't like it used to be. I remember when I was dating that the hardest part about dating was just sort of kind of finding someone, putting yourself out there, maybe navigating the conversations. You might have met some guys that weren't a good fit for you, right? Like a good fit meaning like maybe we didn't mesh or have enough in common. But more and more when having re-entered the dating world fairly recently and also having girls, daughters who are talking about the dating world all the time, it's different out there. Like there is a whole new factor that I literally did not realize was ever gonna come up. I thought it was just finding someone who had a job you liked or finding somebody who had a schedule you liked or finding someone that you thought was hot enough, right? Like who just matched looks that you wanted. Now, you have to find a guy who even wants to work. Let me tell you what that means. There are new jobs, right? Goals, aspiration that mask as work that keep people from ever working. Some of you are already there with me. You already know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the guys out there who are like, well, I'm an influencer, podcaster, rapper, producer, club promoter, content creator, some sort of list of things, and I'm not knocking those things as not a career because, raise my hand, I do all of them, right? No, I'm saying the people who actually never really progress, never really execute, never really do anything, but they claim these titles and they spend a lot of time and or money buying things around it, but never really pursuing it. Motivational speaker, heck, even author, oh, I'm working on this book for an indefinite amount of time, but I never actually put it out, or I don't know anything about publishing. Or, oh my gosh, especially as a business, consultant, my least favorite thing, the guy who does all of these things actually creates something, but never launches it, never sells it, never markets it, never promotes it. Listen, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you aren't actually putting it out there for someone to find it and by extension pay and book you, then you got nothing. You have a big fat zero, right? If people can't find you, they can't pay you. And when I tell you there is a larger segment of young men that are finally hitting dating age that have this sort of mindset that as long as they are doing something every day, whether or not it relates to income or growth or impact, that it's sufficient and thus, their partner needs to be excited about it. Pump the brakes, okay? I gotta tell you, it can be a form of manipulation being in a relationship with people who are convincing you every single day that they don't have a responsibility to help with their share of bills and moving your relationship forward because they just want to pursue their interest. This was something that for me growing up was like not tolerated at all. And, y'all can come at me in the DMs or if you're watching on YouTube, you can be in the comments. I don't care about this part of it. I feel very confident in what I'm saying here. I remember the days growing up where men would literally be ashamed if they did not have or were not pursuing having their life together. I don't know what's happened. Call it cultural. Maybe it's cultural. Growing up African, like I hear about women right now who are like, yeah, my guy doesn't pay any child support. He doesn't, contribute to the care of his kid. I don't care if you are a bajillionaire, because that's the other shift that I'll talk about in a second is how women are now the breadwinners so often, and not just the breadwinners, but breadwinners by a lot. I know a lot of women who are bringing in multiple six figures, if not millions, who have retired their husbands. I used to be one. And these women are in positions where they're now supporting the entire family and their husbands are doing nothing and or feel entitled to do nothing, or their exes or their boyfriends or whatever else. And when I tell you, I will never forget when I was started dating, and in previous relationships I've had, and I talk about this stuff with my mom, and I'm not kidding. A common phrase my mom would say, in her whole African chest, is she'd be like, "Is he not ashamed? Is he not embarrassed?" Because embarrassed, obviously has that many syllables. Is he not embarrassed? Huh? He is not embarrassed. He's saying you are out here working and you are taking care of the children and you are showing up every day and you are doing all of these things. And he's over here and what? He can't even pay for small dinner, right? Like truly. Like it's almost like there's a entitlement that exists, while also saying you want to high value women. So headphone warning. Headphone warning. Okay, mamas, you know as well as I do, and this is headphone warning, meaning like if you got the littles in the room, but if you got the sons in the rooms and you got the daughters in the room, turn it up, okay? This is an increased volume warning. No woman wants to be with you if you are not productive and you are not out there being ambitious. Being ambitious is one of the sexiest things that a man can put on, okay? It's why, like, and just cheat code, right? As much as people are like, oh, high value women, high value, blah, blah, blah. And you see like a gorgeous, stunning, like, just a real winner, right? With a guy who might be otherwise labeled as someone that you wouldn't expect to be able to acquire such gorgeous of a woman. Typically people will be like, oh, well, that's because she's a gold digger or that's because she's chasing the bag, right? That's the reason. No, it's because he's ambitious. You don't understand. Some of these men out there may not be the tallest or the most attractive or whatever stereotypical thing that you think they need to be in order to get a woman of a certain caliber, but they work hard, but they've accomplished something, but they have drive, but they're showing up every day to do work. And guess what? Believe it or not, they may also be empathetic and kind and smart and thoughtful. These are all attributes. Like, I can't even tell you, it blows my mind to hear men go viral on the internet complaining about how women only want guys who have cars and jewelry and money and all these things, when they don't even realize that if they got the base level behaviors like empathy, thoughtfulness, kindness, drive, ambition, all that stuff is free. You don't have to pay for that. It doesn't cost any money to not be a jerk. But yet you are bypassing all of that and saying it doesn't even matter that I have the attributes of a decent human because the focus and what these women want are cars and houses and things like that. I just want to let all these guys know who are having this conversation. A lot of these women out there have these things already or can get them themselves. So if I know, especially, and when I tell you, especially for a guy who's listening to this as a byproduct, right? Or this has come across as a viral video for you, I want you to hear this and be very aware. If you're trying to keep your girl because you happen to have one, make sure she feels rested. Because if that woman has the energy to be paying all the bills and working and doing everything else and taking care of the kids, she also has the energy to leave you. So you want to be very, very careful because so many people are saying that you want this woman who's going to be all the things. Proverbs 31, right? I can tell you right now, I was a Proverbs 31 wife. Okay. And that made me exhausted. I was not trying to be a Proverbs 31 wife to a husband who couldn't step in and help me out where possible. Right. And that is a real thing. You want to make sure you're always in partnership with someone who can match you, and that isn't a negative thing, right, for the other person. People are who they are, right? But you also want to know that women are looking for someone who's going to meet that energy. You can't, a Proverbs 31 wife, for those of you guys who aren't, Bible followers, it's someone who mends and sews and goes out and tills the soil and also cooks meals and, does it with delight and smiles and makes money and is wise with this. Listen, when I realized that during the pandemic, I grew my own Thanksgiving dinner, I'm not kidding. During the pandemic, I was running a business, taking care of myself. I was taking care of the kids. I was coming up with activities, creating content, paying every single bill. And then I also, as a hobby, because I do like to garden, decided to grow every single vegetable that I could think of because I had time during the pandemic. And then I harvested all those vegetables and cooked a Thanksgiving dinner with it. Listen, I don't care what anybody says. If you get a woman like that, you lock her down. You lock her down so heavy, you cover her ankles with diamonds so she is weighted to the ground and does not leave. Okay? Because I'm telling you right now, a lot of these men out here are talking about wanting a woman like that, but then not putting in the effort to keep her and then complaining there aren't high value women. There are high value women out there. It's just that we are out there spending our own value on ourselves. And so when I see these videos go viral, all I could think is, women, are we having these conversations with our daughters, letting them know that these are men who are claiming, right, that they are bringing a lot to the table, but all they want to bring to the table is that, oh, well, I'll pay your bills as long as you comply. No, be careful because a lot of those men are also lazy. One of the biggest things that I've been talking to my daughters about is this concept of retiring your husband. Now, it's something that's spoken about a lot, particularly within the Christian community. And so some of you may have some thoughts on this. Feel free to bring them my way. I'm not hard to find, info@NicoleWalters.com. But one of the things that's talked about a lot is that there's this aspirational goal of retiring your husband, right? Listen, I only want to retire my husband if he is going to seek employment someplace else. So retiring him from a job he doesn't like for him to take on a job he does like, or a job that adds to our family, or a job that adds to my spirit and my energy, which allows me to further grow my family, sure. But retiring my husband to sit at home and play video games, retiring my husband to sit at home and just do nothing, that's not cute. It's extremely unattractive. I don't know about y'all ladies, but who is turning themselves upside down or running any type of extra tricks or learned anything special, right? There will be no extra, right? And I'm talking about married sex, y'all. So my Christian people who are about to be in my DMs is like, whoa, Nicole, that's spicy. I'm just letting you know, when you're married, you can do whatever for your husband. You should do whatever for your husband, okay? But that said, one of the things that is the most attractive that will get me stretching, okay, signing up for hot yoga, okay, for my man is if he's works, okay? So it's one of those things where I can't stress enough. A lot of us are out here saying to ourselves, we want to find a partner and we are the breadwinner. I just had this conversation with one of my girlfriends who's a millionaire, and she's like, it's really tough because finding another guy who's a millionaire, but doesn't think that that allows him to own me, right? Because she's coming to the table saying, look, I also make my own money and I don't need anything from you. And he's like, well, I want a woman who's going to stay at home and take care of the kids because that's what's high value. It's like, you are missing the mark. You two could be powerhouses together. You're both coming in and you guys have the means to do some really incredible stuff. And she's like, yeah, I'm just struggling because I can't find a guy who has that energy. It's either a guy who wants me to put my business on the back burner because that's his definition of high value, or a guy who wants me to come in and pay his bills so that he can do nothing. Right. And I was like, girl, I hear you. You are not the only friend who's talking to me about this. I have my own experiences with it, right? But I can tell you 100% that you should not step back from being who you are and generating your income and be okay being the breadwinner. Y'all, I'm very okay being the breadwinner because I know that my husband is working every single day to match or exceed my income. One of his biggest goals is to make sure that I have the type of revenue to not just live the comfortable life that I deserve, that I've earned, that I keep for myself, but he also wants to make sure that I can pursue other interests because he sees some of the goals and aspirations that I have that he wants to see come through. So I love looking at a man every single day, and I'm willing to hold up the world as I see him chase continuously providing for me and our four daughters. But understand that when I met him, I knew right out of the gate that I wasn't going to meet another millionaire. But you know what I was looking for? Someone that was empathetic, someone that was thoughtful, someone that was kind, someone that was willing to support and help heal me. So when I went on my book tour, it was one of the hardest, most physically, emotionally, and mentally trying times of my life. When this was in October of 2023. And who says 2023? Doesn't everyone say 2023? Look at me. I feel like that's dating myself, right? But it was October of 2023. And you know, it's amazing working with someone who's also an entrepreneur. He's a musician, but he's a producer. And he was able to come with me on tour. And it was nice because as the breadwinner, we could afford that, right? He was able to come with me. We could absorb costs related to that, all of that. But as the breadwinner, it also meant that when you're on tour with me, you're not coming on tour to absorb the enjoyment of that experience, right? You're not just there to, meet people and have fun and interact and have good meals and take flights. No, no, no. And catch this part, y'all. I did not have to explain that to him. That's another thing that my daughters are both witnessing, understanding, and learning. I didn't have to explain that to him. He knew that he was coming as part of the common goal, which was to assure the success of this book, not just for my career, but for my impact personally, and something that I've worked on for almost 4 years. On this book tour, the things that y'all did not see behind the scenes, when I tell you every single night, I never had to worry about a meal. He made sure that I had food. No matter if I was, that feeling when you're too tired to even eat, you're like, I'm tired and I could either sleep or I could eat right now. And right now sleep is winning out. He would not have it. He made sure that I had a meal. He packed and unpacked my bags every single day. I don't think I lifted a single thing. He carried everything in and out. He knew my flights. He knew my schedule. He knew my agenda. He knew what time I needed to arrive, what time I didn't need to arrive. I mean, he literally operated as a tour manager. And I can't emphasize enough, not his job. Also, wasn't the husband, was the boyfriend at that time. He was giving me husband benefits, okay, on a boyfriend salary. And when I tell you these sorts of things, that behavior was like, I'm gonna marry this man. Because one thing I do know is that everywhere he looks, he's going to make sure that my life as a breadwinner is not going to be harder. I know some of y'all right now are either in relationships, coming out of relationships, or seeking relationships that you've been in where you've said to yourself, I wish I could just put my cup down, leave my house and come back and it's where it was, right? These are tiny little things post divorce that you really appreciate. Coming back home to a home that isn't more work, coming back into a place that is peaceful. When I tell y'all the peace that I feel in my home is because I specifically sought out a relationship with someone who was not a lazy man. When I entered the dating scene, the amount of boys masquerading as men that I came across who were lazy, who literally were like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. These are grown men. I'm telling you, 35 plus. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I'm not pursuing it. I'm working a career that I hate and I'm going to complain about every single day, but do nothing to change, and my hobby that I'm doing as like a side thing, I'm not really putting the effort in because I'm just kind of biding my time until I find someone who's going to carry it for me. Listen, you're not moving from mommy to wife. Okay. I'm not here to raise myself a good husband. And the fact that I found my partner who's here and willing to show up every single day and recognizes that if the contribution that you are making to the household is not financial, then there are a million other ways you can do it. So just being transparent. One of the things we're talking about right now, with the newborn is that we have full-time help financially because I am the breadwinner. It was really important that coming out of delivery, I didn't know what I was going to be dealing with, a C-section or like I just didn't know. And because I was over 40 and high risk, as they say, I wanted to be prepared for anything. So I hired a full-time 24/7 baby nurse, so we have tons of support. But I've been really fortunate. I feel really, really good. So I've been able to work. I've been able to get back to it, and I've been able to really balance out my time. This has also been timely because Alex, my husband, is currently working on a, project. So he's been in studio every single day for anywhere from 10 to 15 hours. And it'll be a total of 9 months before he's done. And so when I tell you he is birthing a baby as well, and that has been during the same time frame that I've been pregnant. So catch this though. While he's working on that project, his income is in flux. And I think a lot of us understand this with the industry. If you're working on a movie, you're not getting paid for the movie real time. Your check comes at the end or it comes in installments. That's how that works in this industry. We often live check to check, right? Like, so you need to have your own consistent income on the side. So Alex still works. He still does some performing gigs, things like that. But the bigger project, right, with the much, much bigger checks, that is the thing that you have to wait as it comes in. What does that mean? It means that the person in the household, me, you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my hand raised, right? The person who has a consistent income coming in is also down for the count. I just gave birth to a human life. I made kidneys. Okay. I'm real busy. Right. So knowing that that is the case, it's like financially, thankfully, I have savings. I have, consistent passive recurring income. I'm really grateful for all of that, but our expenses have also gone up. So what does that mean? It means that Alex has to pitch in more. It means that one of the things we talk about where if I end up with a speaking gig or something like that, and we don't have a nanny or a nurse at the time, we know who's staying home, right? And it's an understanding we have, but also know that when I am home and I do have time off, I am holding up the world so he can chase his dream as well. And so that he can generate income as well. Because for him, it is really important as a point of pride based on his ethical upbringing and his sound morality is that he is able to generate income and be a contributing member of our household. For him, it has nothing to do with the high value woman that he has married and everything to do with his personal integrity and character. And so one, I'm thrilled that my daughters are witnessing this because they're able to see that even though mommy brings in a certain, number and has a certain bank account, it does not change the fact that the man in her household who's expecting her to also operate as a quote unquote high value woman can show up as a high value man. Because guess what? Your value has nothing to do with the commas in your bank account. It has everything to do with your character and how you show up as a person. And it is so exciting to see my daughters witness it as I'm discussing it with them. And I really encourage you, mamas out there, if you've got teenage girls, if you are entering the dating scene yourself, just be aware. Know what's out there. Know that this is some of the language and conversation that some of these young men are absorbing through podcasts and through TikTok and through social media. And they're believing it. They're buying in and thinking because it sounds good, right? That they should have a woman who's willing to do it all and be all, and that they don't have to bring much to the table except for the occasional check. And if they don't got that check, the fact that they're pseudo working on it is sufficient. Let your girls know they are better off alone than they are capturing and managing and raising one of these lazy men because they're out there and they expect you to take care of them. And that's not a thing. And if you're in a relationship with one right now, I just want to let you know you are better off without. The mental energy, the mental space, the financial output that comes along with a lazy man is not worth it. It is not worth your health. It is not worth your well-being. And if you have kids, they deserve to see you loved well. And the messaging that daddy can sit at home and play video games all day, or that, you're allowed to run yourself ragged. Okay, sis, you are out there looking raggedy, okay, behind this guy who's out here thriving and doing nothing. Like, no, please go be great. Go look great. Go have your best energy. Pay out that coin for that divorce and then go off and get yourself what you deserve, because that is the life that you deserve with the amount of energy that you are putting out there. And so there are so many perspectives on what it is to be the breadwinner. Some of you are afraid to go get it because you're like, what if a guy's not interested? That's called an ego problem. It's on him. Some of you are like, I already have achieved it. I have the house. I have the degrees. I have the coins. How do I find a good guy? My lesson to you, my message to you is look for the character. Don't look for the coins because the coins will follow if the character is there. And guess what? Coins can come and go, but that personality is what you are actually married to. And then for those of you who are raising sons or raising daughters, have this conversation. Don't raise a lazy man. Have a kid who's out there who understands the value of a dollar and recognizes that he is responsible to care for himself and that he is not going out there to find a wife to be a replacement to him as a new mother, and then have your daughters out there know that they deserve to have someone who loves and cares for them the same way they're expected to show up and care for their partner. Marriage isn't always going to be 50-50, but it shouldn't be permanently 100 and 0 or 70-30. It's supposed to shift in different seasons because that's how you really get ahead. And hopefully I don't eat my words, right? I'm not so naive, to think that everything I do is perfect or that I'm the one to give out perfect marital advice. But what I can tell you is, you cross that age of 40 and you start looking back and recognizing, what did I do with my 30s? What did I do with my 20s? And there are definitely some things that I have learned, in the years past and things that I'm looking not to repeat. And one of them is making sure that as I was dating and as I was getting out, that I was not getting saddled with a lazy man. And I'm grateful. What I have now is worth it. And it's what I deserve. And it's what you deserve too.